Well, the man charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students has not yet entered a plea, but some prosecutors are already saying Bryan Kohberger will not be able to use the not guilty by reason of insanity plea. The insanity defense has not been available in Idaho since 1982. Now, Kohberger is due back in court in June as both sides gather evidence before a preliminary hearing. I want to welcome in Tracy Walder, former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
And so Kohberger's team requested 6 months to put their defense together. Is that a typical amount of time? And what do we expect that they will be doing?
I think given the sheer volume of evidence, the crime scene, and how many people were victims in this case, 6 months is actually quite typical. It's really what I expected. You wouldn't want to go too much longer than that, because that would be depriving him of his right to a speedy trial. But really what you're going to see is them hiring their own experts, their own witnesses to come in, reevaluate the evidence, reevaluate the crime scene, try to do everything they can to poke holes in that probable cause affidavit. But at the same time, you're going to have the prosecution who is also, and remember, in that probable cause affidavit, they don't have to put everything in there. They just have to put enough information to get an arrest warrant for him. So they are going to also be compiling all of the evidence that they have that they didn't include in that probable cause affidavit.
And Kohberger will not be able to use the not guilty by reason of insanity plea in Idaho. Does that mean that his mental state will not be taken into account?
So thank you for bringing that up, Natasha. He actually cannot use it in Idaho. I think we're so used to hearing about it because many states do allow it. And in this case, I think his mental state may mean something to the defense. However, they can't use it in a plea. And we have to be, really careful with that, because just because you may suffer from a mental illness of some sort doesn't make one a murderer. And so, yes, it gives us insight into perhaps some of the struggles that he had. But, I'm someone that suffers from PTSD, from my time in Afghanistan, and that doesn't make someone commit a violent act. And so, yes, it gives us insight. It may be used towards motive, but it's not something that he'll be able to use in any kind of a defense.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that personal information with us as well, Tracy. I appreciate it. Kohberger's former attorney said that the affidavit contains many holes. As an investigator and with your background and training, when you looked at the affidavit, did you see any potential holes that jumped out at you?
I'm going to be very honest. I thought it was a very well done probable cause affidavit, but there are always holes. And, as an FBI agent, you are always trying to think about how the defense can poke holes in your argument. I think the biggest holes that they're going to be able to poke is really in that cell phone tower information. I've talked before about the caste system that was used, which I'm assuming was used in this case. And that is something that is relatively new, and it has been challenged by a few defense attorneys with some success. And so I do think that there are holes that can be poked in this.
I appreciate that. Very last question. In about 20 seconds, we are finding out that new information about potential changes in his behavior around the time of the murder. He was a teaching assistant at WSU. In a report, one of his students claims that he was initially a very harsh grader on papers, and that abruptly changed, that he began giving hundreds and high marks. Do you make anything of a change in behavior in that sort?
I think one of the things that I make of that change of behavior is this release. I think he did get some kind of release in these crimes, and I think he was getting some kind of a frustration release, and that's what caused him to, go from this really strict grader to this lenient grader. I've also heard that he became very wordy when he wasn't necessarily a wordy person, and so I think that may speak towards the release that he got from committing these horrific crimes.
All right. Always appreciate the insight and time. Tracy Walder, thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.